it's a case of the depth of talent, really. I think when the internationals are on and the pro teams are still playing, really we're struggling really for the quality. And I think what's been proven is that Ireland and indeed Wales have better strength of the average players. So if you understand, once the international players have been taken out of the equation, the Wales and Ireland have got better strength and depth than Scotland do.
How much is it, from Ireland's perspective today, going to be a question of patience, Keith, as well, not rushing things?
It is hugely important. I mean, the guys are going to be nervous at the start, as it is the first tangible results for a long period of time. If they hold their patience for a long while, I think they're a better side.
Okay, and what are you looking for here from Scotland? Pride?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think there's always pride when you pull on that blue jersey of Scotland. Everyone's saying there's nothing to play for. When you're playing for Scotland, you're playing for your country. There's an awful lot to play for. So I think they just want to put in a performance that they could be proud of to take into the summer tour to Australia.
There's Brian O'Driscoll. 50 caps today, a big game for him. Must just mention as well that if you have an interactive facility, then now is the time where if you hit that red button, you get all sorts of opportunities to get insight into what's happening during the course of the next hour and a half or so. And I'll just remind you once again, just in case you need reminding, 10 to 8 tonight, BBC One, the showdown between France and England at Stade de France. But here we go with Ireland against Scotland, Philip Matthews and Nick Mullins.
Thank you very much, John. The gods of wind must have blown themselves to a standstill last weekend, because there's barely a Dublin breath today. The flags are calm, unlike everyone in the ground. Not much has changed at this homely old place in the 19 years since it last hosted a Triple Crown party. It still is worn around the edges as it was in 1985, but just like then, it comes alive when it's full, and Lansdowne is very much alive today. And here are the anthems. Of determination in the face of Gordon Bullock. 15 names plus 7 replacements poised to be printed in the annals of Irish rugby history, perhaps. The captain's always sure of his place at the top of the page, so how appropriate that Brian O'Driscoll, on today of all days, clocks up cap number 50. The pack's barely changed all championship, although there is a first start this year for David Wallace. The Munster flanker's running will compensate for the loss of the foraging skills of Keith Gleeson. Now, unkind folks might suggest Matt Williams has been doing nothing more than rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic this week, but there are changes after 0 point against the French. Dan Parks takes charge in the wheelhouse. He starts a test for the first time at fly half. Chris Patterson switches to the lookout and fullback. And in the engine room, young Ali Hogg was called up yesterday to fill in for the injured Cammy Mather. The Celtic connection continues with our referee. Welshman Nigel Williams will dish out the law and order.
I've got you.
If you're Irish, time for a deep breath. Likewise, if you're Scottish, if you're neither, just sit back and enjoy two teams who have so much to play for. The penultimate match of the RBS Six Nations Championship, and 1985 the key date. The last time Ireland lifted the Triple Crown, the last time Scotland were whitewashed. The next 80 minutes will decide which of those runs comes to an end, and Ireland in the green.
Stay back, blue.
Take that kick-off comfortably enough. Simon Easterby, who's had a terrific season, but O'Gara immediately charged down. This is Bullock out to Douglas. What an opportunity for Scotland. Cussiter to the new man Parks. This is Phillip, who's impressed at the start of his international test career. So many young players in this Scottish team, but they're going to have the perfect start perhaps. The kick charge down from Ronan O'Gara, and Scotland will have the penalty.
Well, it'll be good to see that again, because was Ronan O'Gara a little bit casual. He seemed to take his time there. That's the one thing that Ireland really feared today. They didn't really want to come onto this pitch in any way complacent, and they've given Scotland exactly what Scotland were looking for. Watching the body language before the two teams came out, you did sense that Ireland were focused. They're very stern looking faces. It was what I always like to see. Don't like to see too much kind of joviality and laughing, but they seem to be fairly focused. But Scotland as well seem pretty focused, and they'll be delighted with that start.
And so the pressure is on Chris Patterson. 22 points in the Six Nations so far, 240 in total. It's been an up and down season for him, hasn't it? He's getting used to what it must have been like for Gregor Townsend. Not sure which position he's in, but he is now in the position to give Scotland the lead at the start of this match, and it's straight and it's true, and that will boost Scotland. And you can see what it means to Chris Patterson. Haven't been too many smiles on the face of Scottish rugby so far this season, but that is the perfect start. They lead by 3 points to 0, and we've not played 2 minutes. Philip Matthews.
Yeah, so they lead by 3, but Ireland will just have to put that completely behind them and just maybe put that down to a false start. But let's see if Scotland can build on this.
Kickoff goes long, and this is Simon Danieli, who is a big lump on the wing.
Hands up. Stay back.
Cussiter to Parks on the half volley. He did well, Dan Parks. And it'll be an Ireland throw-in at the line-out.
Yeah, so the first line-out of the game, and a real key area here, because we know Scotland's line-out's reputation. It's been good. It's probably been the most successful unit that they've had in recent years, and this year it's still performed. Ireland's line-out as well has been among the best in the championship. So four real battles here, with O'Connell versus Grimes, with O'Kelly versus Scott Murray, Easterby and Jason White and Taylor.
Well, it's interesting to see Byrne go long. It was well taken in, and that's the Scottish 22. Stringer to Big John Hayes, and Scotland were caught offside. There's a penalty coming if nothing comes of this. O'Gara, little chase for Jordan Murphy, but there's too much on that. We will come all the way back because Simon Taylor was offside, and Ireland will have the immediate opportunity to square things up.
Well, it was worth a shot by Ronan O'Gara, just trying to get the ball directly into Jordan Murphy's hands there. Jordan Murphy was wise to it as he was shaping up to do that. And now can Ireland respond and just negate that early lapse? Ronan O'Gara's got got the opportunity, I guess, just inside the Scottish 22. Some must be some 22 metres. That's the drive that was set up by David Wallace. And in David Wallace, if anything, they've got another attacking player, another game breaker. John Hayes was just really standing too deep. He wasn't really in play and wasn't looking for that ball at all. And really, there was nothing on for it.
4 years on from his debut here against Scotland and winning his 43rd cap. This to go beyond 400 points in international rugby. Both sides have had 2 attacks. Both sides have had a penalty each. And with 4 minutes gone on a calm day in Dublin, it's Ireland 3, Scotland 3, and both kickers have got their eyes in early on.
Yeah, and Eddie O'Sullivan, I think, will just blow a little sigh of relief. It's almost like, right, now we can start again. 3-all, and psychologically that's very, very important for Ireland. Really needed to negate that penalty as soon as possible and get things on level terms again.
The restart comes from the new man, Dan Parks. First start for the 25-year-old from Sydney. Born in Australia, Parks, but he's got an Ayrshire granny, and that's the reason he's wearing the blue of Scotland today. With Patterson having switched to fullback, much debate before the game against the French where Patterson ought to play. Well, he's playing at fullback today, and as Stringer clears the touch, the number 10 shirt has gone to Dan Parks, and that's Peter Stringer, one of half a dozen players who made his debut here against Scotland 4 years ago. Well, he really has made that shirt his own. No debate about who plays number 9, or more and more so number 10 for Ireland these days. And it's a free kick against Ireland, not organising their defensive line-up quickly enough, and Scotland can have another bash in centre field. It's David Wallace trying to rip the ball back, and Wallace forces the penalty. Scottish hands hanging on to the ball as they were driven backwards, and well done, David Wallace.
Yes, Ireland really stopping that attempted drive by Scotland. They're really setting their stall out early, I guess, not really wanting Scotland to establish any kind of a beachhead, any kind of momentum, and build any kind of confidence. Attacking defence, which is what Eddie O'Sullivan would have been talking about. Be very, very aggressive when Scotland have the ball. Yes, Stuart Grimes taking the ball into contact in there, but just really not been able to get any kind of momentum, as he was Alistair Hogg. David Wallace, not necessarily known for his defensive play, more of an attacking play, but really working hard there to get that Scottish drive going in the right direction.
It was Alan Jacobson who refused to give up possession. Shane Byrne with the line out, well taken in by Easterby. Well, it'd be wrong to use the word revelation for Easterby because his talent was always on display, but he's really come on in this last 12 months. He was a star at the World Cup, and he's been consistent in this Six Nations, and from his take from that line out, Ireland will have an offensive scrum.
Yes, it's just really those early few minutes, isn't it, where everything's still fairly frenetic, still a lot kind of adrenaline running from the national anthems, and Ireland will just want to get through this first 10 or 15 minutes because they'll want a fairly controlled pattern game. They don't want to play an unstructured game, even though they've got the players for open counter-attacking play. They'll just want to control the pace and the structure of this game if they can.
O'Gara to O'Driscoll, the 50-cap man, breakthrough to Gordon Darcy. What a firework he has been in this championship. And here's Malcolm O'Kelly, overtakes Willie John McBride today in the Irish cap charts. And the ball was knocked forward. Scotland will have the scrum.
There's the mark for the hookers.
Well, that was a tricky one for Peter Stringer. This is O'Driscoll. Ball's just a very, very simple switch back inside to Gordon Darcy, who does well, again, to get well beyond that gain line. He's strong, he's small, he's quick, but he's so strong. It's almost like a slightly smaller version of Brian O'Driscoll. Peter Stringer just couldn't deal with the resulting ruck ball.
We saw what happened to O'Driscoll there. He was really clobbered by Tom Phillip. Heard the oohs and the ahs as everyone watched it back on the big screen. Here it is, Phillip.
Well, it's high as well. The referee's obviously not seen that. Tom Phillip wants to get his make his mark early on, so to speak, with Brandon, just to let him know that he's not going to have it all his own way. And just watching the body language of some of these Scottish players, Jason White's made a few big early hits as well, established his presence early on. You can just sense a little bit of aggression in the Scottish side. They're not going to be turned over.
Two very determined scrums as well. This is Jason White. Little ball inside to Andrew Henderson. Tall, lithe centre. And here's Parks.
Obstruction!
And it's an obstruction against Gordon Bullock, I think. It'll be interesting to have another look at that, but the result is definitely a penalty to Ireland.
You can just sense that Scotland's mood is quite aggressive here. They've obviously been stung by an awful lot of the criticism in the press. They've taken it very personally, and I guess they've come here in a fairly belligerent mood already. And maybe just that little penalty, that high tackle on O'Driscoll, a couple of big hits early on, you can't really blame them, can you? This is the moment. There's the obstruction. Yeah, I mean, he hadn't turned his back. He'd faced Reggie Corrin straight up and just put his arms up to stop him going through.
This occasion, Ronan O'Gara can't use the wind as an excuse because it's like a mill pond down there. There is no breeze whatsoever, and that's a poor kick from a man who would expect to get those over. And Scotland breathe again. Gordon Bullock not punished with the 3 points that maybe he ought to have been. Very interesting moment during the warm-up as well that Philip and I both noticed, that the Scots went off onto the back pitch behind the West Stand here at Lansdowne, through the crowds, half an hour before the match. Never seen that happen at Lansdowne Road before, as O'Gara finds a decent touch. Does he? No, it just bounces back inside. Will it go dead? The answer to that is no, so Chris Patterson has to dab down. But it was a very unusual way to prepare for a match half an hour before the kickoff, Philip, to take the team off this main pitch and onto the back pitch behind us.
Yes, and they had the subs out with all the protective padding equipment as well, so it was looking like Matt Williams was putting them into a fairly physical, aggressive session, and you can kind of see that in some of the early signs of the Scottish performance already.
Restart from Dan Parks, collected by O'Driscoll, runs underneath Webster. Stringer, O'Gara, and this is the fullback Dempsey to Horgan, as Jordan Murphy outside. The ball was knocked on.
Come forward.
Yeah, it was just a little bit too much of a stretch for Jordan Murphy. A little bit too flat, all getting a little bit crowded there, but you can see what they're trying to do. Ireland want to take this game and move the ball wide fairly early on. They want to attack Scotland wide at any opportunity.
Hold, engage.
Simon Taylor having to work hard to tidy the ball up at the base of that scrum. And he had Stringer and Easterby in his face when he had. Ball was free. This is Stringer. That support from O'Connell made sure the ball came back on the green side. O'Gara stretching. And this is Darcy. The warnings have been there. What a Six Nations Darcy has had. And here is Horgan. Little chip over. Webster's there. The bounce of the ball favours Scotland.
Well, when Shane Horgan looks back on that tomorrow, he might wish he kept that in his hands, but he did very well to rip that ball away. Backs playing like forwards these days, that's what's expected. There's no way he was going to get through there. Difficult to say it was an obstruction or intentional.
That's over the head of O'Gara for the second time, and Parks was there, and so was Dempsey. It's been a breathless start, hasn't it? It really has. Scotland have laid down the challenge. Ireland are trying to respond. Webster. And this is Patterson. Taylor now. Crosses halfway. Tackled well by O'Driscoll. Knocked the ball out. That was an aggressive, offensive tackle from the skipper.
Yeah, so I'm talking about Shane Horgan backs playing like forwards. That really was almost like like a flanker tackle you'd expect. And that's what we come to expect from Brian O'Driscoll. Very, very aggressive in the tackle, went for the ball and knocked it out. And just shut down what was looking to, could have been developing into a dangerous situation. Very physical player. For somebody with such pace and skill, he really is the complete article, isn't he? Look at that, even the second arm was coming round to knock that ball out.
We've gone up. Oh, look at it, we go again. Green ball. Let's go back, please. Crouch and hope. Guys, both sides. Listen.
Table between the two of them.
Both sides are preempting the engage. Please wait for it. Stay there, Blues. Please wait. Engage.
Equally determined as well, which was the reason for the instruction from the referee, Nigel Williams, just to slow things down a little bit.
I'll go around and have a look.
You just sense though, Nick, that if Scotland had played with this mood in Rome, that they might be facing this whitewash. There's certainly noticed a much stronger sense of commitment and aggression from them, which is what have been lacking so far.
It's a magnificent kick from O'Gara. He sensed that Webster had come in field and Patterson wasn't in a position to field the ball, so into that big gaping green hole went the ball, and Ireland will now pressure this Scottish line-out.
Yes, and Ireland have the line-out to put the pressure on as well. It's made it so much easier for Ronan O'Gara. He's got all the options at his disposal with the strength of this line-out. Can afford to play for territory.
It's one of the best line-outs in the championship, though. The Blues against the Greens. Bullock needs to get this right, and that often means Scott Murray, 59th cap today.
Stay back, Greens.
It's Webster at scrum half, and Parks, who's done more kicking than passing so far, doesn't find touch. Horgan gathers. This is the fullback, Dempsey. Now Jordan Murphy, second game back after the broken leg, to O'Driscoll, to Darcy, and shuffled into touch. But what Ireland would have loved to have done a week ago against Italy, but couldn't because of the wind, they're having the opportunity to do today.
Yes, and they want to do it quickly as well, and counter-attacking, which is something which maybe Irish sides in the past could have been criticised for not doing enough of. Shane Horgan really getting that ball into the middle of the park quickly to Dempsey, who found both O'Driscoll and Darcy out wide. But that was pretty well covered off in the end by Scotland. Still stretching them.
I'm not sure that was planned. That's uncertain.
Stay back, Green.
But Bruce Douglas managed to tidy things up. And just beginning to get the screwdriver out and turn that screw. Back in defence at the moment, though. And Gerben Dempsey, the Leinster man, who will forever be remembered for that historic try in the win at Twickenham. Clears to touch.
Yeah, pretty much the right thing to do. The counter-attack wasn't done then. Gerben Dempsey with all of his teammates ahead of him.
Stay.
Cussiter to Parks. And Taylor bursting up. It was a run full of intent, but so was the defence. Grimes, the big Newcastle lock. Cussiter again, he's busy. He and Parks are linking up smoothly at the moment, and again that's back over the heads of the defence, and Murphy in his own 22 takes his time and fires back towards halfway.
Well, a bit of territory now for Scotland, and if they're going to make any impression on this game, they really need to do it from these lineouts. Got to establish some kind of pattern. They might have the game breakers out wide, and yes, they're taking their back row out to the lineout again. They're looking to try and take the ball up the middle through the back row, probably, if they can just get the ball away from the lineout quickly.
Wonderful challenge for the Irish defending lineout. They're trying to work out where the ball's going to be, and that's how close Malcolm O'Kelly was to guessing correctly. Oof. David Wallace wasn't far away from the interception either, but gratefully for Scotland, Andrew Henderson can gallop away, and he finds Phillip, and they're up to the 10-metre line. Stuart Grimes puts his nose in the turf and wins an extra 2 or 3 metres. Much better performance from Scotland. And this is Webster, half through. Got to get these phases going though, need to break the gain line more often. That's been the problem so far this championship. They're having the possession to try and do that. Danieli tackled midway between the 10-metre and the 22. And there were players using the elbow, I think.
14 blue.
Well, that's Scotland's problem. They just reached the gain line with that move. Danieli taking the ball in. Bullock in there again, just trying to shift David Wallace off and out of there. Can't really see what the penalty was for.
It must have been for hanging on, I suspect. David Wallace was there, wasn't he?
He was, and he does add another dimension, I always feel, because he's somebody that has got continuity in his game. He's a good link between backs and forwards, but he's also somebody who can make or break. Tight to scrums is where his strength is, because he's so quick over those first few meters, and he's got such strength and power in his legs to break those tackles.
Thousands and thousands of youngsters all over Ireland have been refusing to go to the barbers since Shane Byrne's 2 tries against Wales. This is O'Kelly. As soon as he got up to break away, there were blue shirts stopping him. O'Gara to O'Driscoll. Doesn't bother with Darcy. Finds Dempsey though. And this is Horgan back inside. He's a real bulldozer. And the try is scored for Gordon Darcy. His first try for his country in a match that may well end in the Triple Crown. Darcy has Lansdowne Road alive.
Well, that's what they came to say, and I really couldn't have hoped to pull it off any quicker than that. The game had been very, very fractious up until now, but slowly but surely they were starting to break this Scottish defence down. That was really the key to that long wide. Look at how far O'Driscoll had to float that pass to allow Dempsey to run onto it. Shane Horgan took a lovely line and found Darcy, who's been outstanding already in the short few minutes or so, the short 20 minutes or so of this game. Wonderful influence again by O'Driscoll, who really made that, really stretching the Scottish defence wide.
Something is not clicking in the right boot of Ronan O'Gara. However, Gordon Darcy will remember those 5 points for the rest of his life. The D went one way, the RC went the other, and the apostrophe went straight down the middle, Philip.
Oh, you and your punctuation. It was a great try, and again, hugely influenced by, well, you have to say both Darcy and O'Driscoll, who are now starting, it has to be said, to get into their stride. They're starting to work as a pair now, aren't they?
Stay back, Blues.
8-3. And we are midway through the first half.
And this really is a difficult pitch part for Scotland. Scotland really need to get their heads up again. They need to establish some kind of territory. They need to be able to say, as we said before, get beyond the gain line. Reasonable line out, and they're getting fairly consistent possession from it, but still, same old problem, not able to breach the game line, not really imposing any kind of threat, and not challenging this Irish defence yet.
Bullock, who celebrated his 29th birthday yesterday. The line out a bit of a lottery as well at the moment, but here's Henderson trying his test debut against the Irish at Murrayfield 3 years ago. They need one now. Here's Philip, Simon Taylor, who has worked his socks off all championship in a largely losing cause. Parks. There's Bullock again, one of the experienced players, one of the people who has to stand up today for the others to run behind. Parks, Henderson. That's Hogg outside. Decided that the best option was to recycle. This is Patterson up in the line, and Webster, well, he was held high by Malcolm O'Kelly, and that's the reason for the penalty.
High tackle.
Still playing the advantage. But we will come back to the penalty now.
It was high.
It's all fairly predictable from Scotland, that ball, but just through Webster up the middle, Ireland not really troubling defence, but just a slightly high tackle by Malcolm O'Kelly, giving Chris Patterson this 3-point opportunity. That's something to show for an immediate incursion into Irish territory if they can put this 3 points over, and that's important.
Did you get the number?
8-6 would be fairly acceptable if they can just wipe the psychological impact that try did from their minds.
Anthony Irvine and Gavin Hastings have scored more points for Scotland than Chris Patterson. And he has another 3 to add to his collection. Matt Williams and Todd Blackadder side have pulled back to within 2. Ireland 8, Scotland 6.
Please, Ronan, okay? Behind the line, please. Thank you.
O'Gara again goes long with the restart, which is an interesting tactic, forcing Simon Taylor to run out of defence, which he will do with pleasure, up to the 22.
Stay back.
Cussiter waits for the ball, and Parks, being challenged by Stringer, doesn't find touch. This is Foley. Tells Murphy where he wants him, and Murphy says OK. Comes back inside the Leicester winger until he's hauled to the floor by Murray. Someone has lost a boot. Stringer, O'Gara, they're all lining up on this right-hand side. O'Driscoll cuts back in against the grain. O'Connell, Darcy again, lovely interchange. The swiftest of hands to find Reggie Corrigan, and then it gets gummed up. We're playing the advantage. Ireland will have a penalty. The referee, Nigel Williams, has had enough.
Well, Ireland might have penalty, and I think Scotland are going to need to be a little bit careful.
The first was Blues not running.
Well, they're going to concede a yellow card.
People coming in the side, and eventually we had the Blue on the floor, scooping it back. We can't have a passage of play like that. If it continues, people are going to be on the sideline.
Well, it was a wonderful break by Jordan Murphy, but it was manufactured by Anthony Foley. He knew exactly what needed to be done. Called him out there, but Scotland really had 2 men on one attacker there. Really shouldn't have let Jordan Murphy go free. He cuts back inside. It's Jordan Murphy ultimately loses his boot, and Peter Stringer just gets pulled into that ruck. And really, Ireland had the Scottish line virtue at the mercy. Peter Stringer hadn't been able to get that ball away and release it. Just desperation on Scotland, just trying to contain this Irish side. We're playing with a huge amount of confidence.
He makes this kick, O'Gara. He's missed 2 eminently kickables so far. He will feel much better about life. 11-6, 25 minutes gone, but it is a contest, and those who thought the 50 points difference to win the championship might have been an option are perhaps having second thoughts now.
Well, it's hard to tell, Nick. I mean, we've got a long way to go, and there's just signs that if Ireland can get past, if Ireland can establish a 10 or 15 point gap by the interval, they're playing with such confidence at the moment, and things are working off for them. You were talking earlier on about that interchange with Reggie Corrigan. They really are taking this game to Scotland, and almost looks like they are chasing the 50-point lead.
There was Corrigan again. They've never beaten Scotland by more than 30 points. That's the measure of the task that chasing 50 means. 36-6. Their best ever Six Nations win in Murrayfield a year ago. Calculations are complicated, but they need at least 50 if they're to challenge England and the French for the championship. Didn't quite have the legs. Webster gets back.
Stay down, Blue.
It's cleared away by the new fly half, Dan Parks, the 25-year-old born in Sydney. And Dempsey does find touch.
Yeah, Scotland really need to try and play as much of this game as they can in Ireland's half. This is the try again. It's a lovely line. You could see that Horgan knew the space wasn't there, but everybody's just making themselves available. Even Jordan Murphy coming over from his other wing. Tremendous amount of confidence and flair at the moment. They're really on top of the game, this Irish three-quarter.
Speed it up, please.
The ball was intended for Jason White. Ireland were making it as difficult as possible, but it has been shuttled back on the blue side, and Henderson took the ball standing still, really. Cussiter lifted high by Parks. It'll come down on Jordan Murphy, and he did very well. Terrific to see him back after that horrific leg break against Scotland in the autumn in the World Cup, that warm-up game in Edinburgh. O'Gara, now to chase for O'Driscoll and Horgan. Patterson needs to be careful. Got the kick away, but only found O'Gara. Now then, O'Connell. Corrigan in support. There's the ball knocked forward. The referee said we can continue. And Dan Parks with a big clearance all the way back into the Irish 22, and Stringer has work to do. Again, won't find touch. Taken in by Henderson. Bullock, Jason White, now to Douglas, runs straight at Darcy. Opportunity for Scotland, but the ball was out, and well, Ireland don't need second invitations, and the moment's gone for the Scots. Well, for half a second in both 22s, there were opportunities.
No, Peter Stringer really should have put that ball well into about the fifth row of the east upper stand. As Simon Easterby ever alerted the breakdown, just referee had called it out at that stage. Everybody was clear. Scotland, with their backs to the ball, hadn't realised that it was outside the ruck. An opportunist, as every good number 6 should be. Got the turnover.
Gentlemen, sort the calls out quicker, please. We'll have it in quicker. The mark is the 10-metre line. Green's out.
We've never got the gaps up.
Stay!
Bullock finds White, who's doing his fair share of work in the line-out. Henderson to Parks. This is Taylor, who was hanging off outside. And this is the moment they've been working so hard on. That's where they need quick ball, and they didn't get it. They hung on to it, and Ireland have the penalty. And it's a familiar tale.
Well, it is, and it's Brian O'Driscoll again. I mean, there's a centre up against what is widely regarded as a world-class number 8, one of Scotland's few world-class players, and O'Driscoll's tackle, just taking man on ball, got to his feet quickly, and Scotland lose possession.
Down to the touchline, Sonia.
Nick Ireland's try scorer Gordon Darcy has had a back injury during this championship. He looks to be struggling, a little uncomfortable. He's had a grimace on his face. Kevin Maggs is sitting on the bench waiting just in case.
Keep an eye on that. Maggs, though, well, he's hardly wet behind the ears, is he? It is a sign of the increasing strength in depth in Irish rugby that Kevin Maggs can only win a place on the bench these days. Let's see if Darcy can make it to half-time. We're into the final 10 minutes of the first half. Just the one try, that scored by Darcy. Ireland will feel much more comfortable if they can secure a second. Foley rolling away. This is O'Kelly, almost up to the 22. Stringer, O'Gara. This is Darcy, Dempsey, and the tackle came from Danieli. Hands in the ruck. If it's a ruck, you just cannot use your hands. It's quite simple.
Well, this is the ball from Darcy to very well timed tackle by Danieli on Dempsey. Give him really no space and no time at all to try and get that ball away to Jordan Murphy, who was on his outside. There's a better view of it there. He really had to be up close and quick, and that's what Scotland are going to need to do today if they're going to negate this Irish three-quarter. But yet another unhappy kick from Rowan Regari. Just whatever, there's not confident with ball in hand, ball at the boot. He's really not kicking the ball well today at all. A charge down kick, a couple of missed penalties, and that, which for him would be just a bread and butter kick to touch.
They gambled on the option of going for possession from the line out, but they've got to get the line out first, and from that penalty O'Gara commits the cardinal sin. Cussiter to Parks. Back inside, Scotland running the ball. This is Patterson. Neat interchange with Phillip on the 10-metre line. It'll be interesting to see Patterson running from fullback. It's why Matt Williams has put him there. He thinks he can open the game up a little more. He's got the angles to use, and we saw a little bit of it there as Bullock goes on the charge down the left-hand side. Scotland switching play quickly to the prop, Alan Jacobson over the 10-metre. And it's It's a penalty against Ireland.
Well, Scotland deserved that one. That's much more like it. They did the unexpected. They took that 22 away very, very quickly, and Chris Patterson attacked from deep in his own half. But that's what they need to do. They need to be unpredictable. They need to do the unexpected. They broke the gain line very, very quickly there. Got Ireland in backward mode, so to speak. Got in behind them and started to poke a few holes. O'Driscoll just been penalised. Either O'Driscoll or Gordon Darcy just been penalised for preventing the release. This is the initial break by Chris Patterson. At Simon Taylor on his shoulder, and that's the way Scotland really want to see him running with the ball. Actually, it's Tom Phillip with that.
And it's also Simon Webster coming in with the boot on the head of Brian O'Driscoll. Which is the reason for that bit of claret.
Well, again, another indication of Scotland's belligerence here. They're really taking another stick from the press, I guess, from not being physical enough. And in one sense, it might be slightly overdoing, but it's having an impression. Just when Ireland looked like they might be starting to cruise away with that try from Darcy, they've managed to close things down again and keep themselves in the game. This is the break by Phillips. A good hit. Well, there's really no need for that at all, and if nobody's seen that, there may well be a sighting after the game, but that's right in front of the referee. No way he couldn't have seen that.
Well, there's always some anxiety to get to the ball, but that was reckless. And that's the reason for the booing. And it comes back off the post. I'm sure that Patterson wasn't affected by the booing, but he could have done with the 3 points. It remains at 11-6, just over 5 minutes to half-time. O'Gara restarts. Easy take for Cussiter. This is Daniele. Tries to run around O'Kelly. Low, flat ball, forcing Gerben Dempsey from left to right, and Dempsey has no angle to work on here. Not really much more he could have done with that. This is Parks. Had a spell with Leeds a couple of years ago. Wasn't hugely impressive, went back to Australia, rejoined Glasgow at the start of this season, and now he's a starter in the Scottish shirt. And this is Webster. And he's getting the bird. Parks. And they've got Murray out there. He wasn't far away, but they got the mark. Well taken by Jordan Murphy, but it was a terrific kick and well chased down by Scott Murray as well.
Well, Jordan Murphy showing all his fullback skills there. I mean, don't you think that in Ireland there was some nervousness about picking Jordan Murphy on the team way back a couple of years ago as fullback? Was he steady enough? But that's as steady as you'll find. Running backwards to try and recover that ball, that was as good a take as you'll find. And get the mark at the same time, clearing his lines.
Stay up, Gridge, please, please.
Imagination from Scotland, though, which was lacking against the French when they got no points a week ago up in Edinburgh. It's their possession from the line out on the 10-metre line. There's Murray again, quickly back to Cussiter. Parks has Henderson outside. Phillip comes in, runs straight into Shane Byrne, rolls off Byrne and runs into John Hayes, which is the kind of combination designed to leave you with a headache. Bullock, Patterson, Webster outside. Well, I'm afraid the boos are what you get when you tread on the King of Ireland, which is what Webster just did.
And if you're as conspicuous with that bolt head as Webster, well, then it's not too difficult to see who the culprit is it?
Drop goal from Parks, and it's there. Oh, goodness me. Cool head, cool head, almost 40 metres out, and Dan Parks marks his first start in a Scottish jersey with a magnificent drop goal.
Yeah, well, you have to say that it's no less than Scotland deserved. The last 10 or 15 minutes, they've dominated this. They've shown a little bit more creativity, a little bit more passion and aggression, and a bit more directness And Ireland will really want to get a grip back on this game again because they've let it slip.
And the Scottish side, who were facing Ireland at 20-1 on to win this match, are within a couple of points as we bear down on half-time. And they will be thrilled. Trailing 11-9. And what can Horgan do about it? And the ball was intended for O'Driscoll. Only finds Darcy though. Darcy's so dangerous in open play. Foley. Can Ireland hit back immediately? A little over 2 minutes to half-time. Stringer. O'Gara chose not to use O'Driscoll. Now he does. Slips underneath one tackle. Goes to ground. Which way will Stringer go? Options right and left. Goes right to O'Gara. Wallace was inside. Stringer took the tackle and they're 6 metres short.
Up again, scrum. Green ball. Bodies either side.
It'll be an Irish put-in.
Well, he's called that very, very early. Obviously felt that ball wasn't going to come back, but I think Ireland wanted to see that go on. Just when they needed to, Ireland just forced themselves back into this game again. Really looking very dangerous when they get that ball wide and open. Moment Scotland just not able to cope with the pace of this Irish attack when they start moving the ball wide. It's Gordon Dempsey, and again it's fairly simple. Don't really know what Webster's doing so in field. He really should have been staying out on Shane Horgan because it was just very, very simple for Horgan to get past the gain line. He found Darcy, who very coolly just cut back inside, happy just to hold on to possession, finds the support of Foley. No, he's revelling in all this space, isn't he?
There were bodies on the deck from both sides playing that ball.
David Wallace needs some attention as well. Recalled to the fold for the first time since a try-scoring performance against Scotland in that warm-up, in because of Gleeson's injury. And this is an important scrum for Ireland. Just the 2 points in it as we bear down on half-time.
Hold, engage.
Just one or two worry lines maybe. Foley to Stringer. Horgan. He was a big Dublin bulldozer. This is O'Gara to O'Driscoll. Jordan Murphy! Welcome back to Test Match Rugby, Jordan Murphy. And they've got the try just before half-time.
Now you can almost anticipate that one coming. Ireland just in the mood that they're in at the moment with the confidence so high. A scrum from that position. You'd have had to give very, very short odds on the try there. Worked it initially from the blind side, from the pick-up from the back row, bringing Shane Horgan into it, just to tie up the Scottish back row, gave Ronan O'Gara all of that time. Darcy this time used as a foil, and also Dempsey as the foil. But when you've got such talent in so many places, how can your defence expect to cover that? Because the threat is going to come from anywhere, isn't it? And ultimately it came from Jordan Murphy in the end.
The ball was moved so quickly as well. They had no chance to reorganise the defence, Scotland. And O'Gara with the conversion attempt, and his radar is very definitely on the blink. He will worry about that at half-time, but there will be less worry in that Irish dressing room because they've got that second try. It gives them some breathing space as they think about the Triple Crown. But the tries from Gordon Darcy and Jordan Murphy mean it is the Irish who lead at the break by 16 points to 9.
Well, just how interesting a 40 minutes was that, and I would think that most Irish fans would just say, forget the championship, we'll just take the Triple Crown. There's Brian O'Driscoll, who's really been in the wars in this first half. Well, one high tackle and one boot hitting him on the back of the head. It's Bertie Ahern, the Irish Premier. Keith Wood, what did you make of that? You were anxious at certain points.
Yeah, I'm a little bit happier, much happier actually after the last minute and the try. I think I'm as nervous as the guys out there because they were playing, I don't know, a bit flat, a bit almost nervous of winning. But I'm much happier just with that score at the end. I think that could be the
And from your perspective, though, conversely, that's almost the best 40 minutes that Scotland have played in the Championship, isn't it?
I think it is, John. I think it is. They've looked like they want to throw the ball about. They've shown some innovative stuff, from running for their own 22, quick dropouts and that. And if it's just a bit more composure in the 22, they might well have converted that into a try.
OK, we'll talk a lot more and we'll see those 2 Irish tries. Was that a forward pass from Brian O'Driscoll? We'll tell you in a moment or so. But now it's time for final score. Scotland hanging on in there, but Ireland with one hand on the Triple Crown, still maybe thinking about the Championship, but they've got to get a cricket score, and they've actually got to get more than the West Indies got against England. But anyway, here we go with the second half, and here's Philip Matthews and Nick Mullins.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Well, I think regarding that question about whether Scotland can win, you would certainly have a little more certainty at half-time than you would have had before the match. They really have showed up. And they've made a change at half-time in the front row as well. Alan Jacobson, the prop, has gone, and Leeds' Gavin Kerr, number 17, is on.
Roll away, Green!
So they are switching things around immediately. It's a tactical substitution. There's nothing wrong with Jacobson. They're just trying to freshen things up and just put the wind up Ireland, which they've been doing pretty well so far, Philip Matthews.
Yes, well they have, and it's not a huge amount to choose between these 2 sets of forwards. I think marginally Ireland might have shaded it in the first half because of their continuity, and they broke the gain line maybe a little bit more consistently. But the big difference has just been this Irish three-quarter line. Any time they've got into any reasonable attacking position, they've really stretched and caused panic in this Scottish defence, and got 2 tries to show for it.
Less than 40 minutes left of these two's RBS Six Nations Championship. You still aren't entirely sure, are you? You still aren't entirely sure. Will the likes of Philip Matthews regain that record of being still the last Irish team to win the Triple Crown back in '85, or will this lot in green take it from them? I'm sure the likes of Philip and Kieran Fitzgerald and Phil Orr and Willie Anderson and all the rest of them watching on today will hope that their record does go. But goodness me, Scotland are making life difficult on that occasion though. Dan Parks just an extra couple of inches too long in the kick, and as it went straight into touch, they'll come all the way back, and Ireland have the choice of the line out or the scrum.
Now when things aren't going well for you during the season, that's Dan Parks who's just come into this side, but he really had a lot of space to work with. That looks like Simon Taylor, yeah.
Doesn't look good either. James Robson, the doctor, and the loss of Taylor would be a huge blow at this stage of the match.
No, thank you.
Well, it would, yes. He's one of their most consistent ball carriers. They really do use him a lot up the centre of the park just to try and break that gain line.
And that's Ali Hogg as well. So at the moment, of Scotland's 3 back rowers, only one of them is on his feet. So Ali Hogg back to his feet. They've got John Petrie on the bench, and this is how Taylor was injured. Oh, and he just falls awkwardly, and is that the right knee as well?
Well, that's the end of his game. He's got the headgear off, so that left knee looks pretty bad. Looks like medial ligaments or something like that, and that's the end of his game as John Petrie takes the field.
That's a concern as well with a summer tour coming up. Scotland are playing a couple of games against the Wallabies in June. They're playing Samoa as well in New Zealand, and very early days, but I wonder whether Simon Taylor will be fit enough to make that tour. John Petrie is on. He's a human earth moving machine, really. Quite sure he's as mobile as Taylor, but he will certainly add some bulk in that back row. And I'm afraid that is the end of Simon Taylor's Six Nations Championship, and not the way he would have wanted to go out. And here's the injury for him.
Yeah, it's just as Shane Horgan cuts back in against the grain so difficult. He's a big, heavy man, Simon Taylor, and just reacting to that cutback from Shane Horgan, he's just twisted that knee quite badly. The pitch very, very firm. There's really no give in it at all, so the knee's going to take the full stress of that.
The pitch is in perfect condition, it really is. And the drive was centred around Malcolm O'Kelly.
Release, hands up!
Stringer waits patiently. Chip over the back of Cussiter, and he needs to be aware, and the ball was bouncing awkwardly and Murphy was bearing down. And what will Scotland do from this restart?
Yeah, the pressure really is on Dan Parks to try and get Scotland into Ireland's half of the park, because any time Ireland get into Scottish territory, their intentions are fairly clear, and there's no way Scotland are going to be able to defend for the remaining 38 minutes or so.
Could be something, Philip. It's a bit quiet. There might be a party at the end of this match, but people haven't turned up yet. O'Driscoll tries to get things going, but Cussiter, who's been bright and alert today, that half-back partnership with Parks has been working well, and here's Patterson, as Andy Nichol points out, coming up into the line as often as possible. Ali Hogg fitting well. Murray acts at scrum half. There's this one there. Cussiter comes in to Parks. This is Henderson. Rolls around the tackle of Foley. This time they kick over the head of Jordan Murphy. Have they got the bounce? They have. And now it's time for them to try and pressurise the Irish line out, and well, they're just thinking a little more. They're just doing the simple things properly and correctly, which wasn't happening last Sunday. Yeah, and Dan Parks at out half seems an awful lot more comfortable than Chris Patterson has, and Chris Patterson at fullback seems a lot more dangerous than he's been at out half, so that's probably a good call by Matt Williams so far. They do need to play this territorial game and start turning the tables a little bit and pressure back onto Ireland, and should be fairly confident about their line-out to be able to challenge this Irish shape. Let's see. Not on that occasion. The Leinster man O'Kelly, with all that experience, 64th cap today, make sure that in a moment of crisis Ireland come away with the possession, and they will have the penalty. Well, that's what Scotland didn't want to do. What they really needed to do was just pressure the kick. They can almost, once Ireland have won it, they really should be letting them have it. Pressurise the kick and then take the line out, hopefully somewhere between the 10 and the 22. But they've given away a silly penalty and possession right back to Ireland. Williams spent 4 seasons in Dublin with Leinster. He did win the Celtic League title, but his time here really began to unravel when they lost to Perpignan in the European Cup semi-final 11 months ago this weekend, a match that they really ought to have won. And from that point on, he was on the way out, really, as Wallace tries to capitalise on the back of that line-out, but it wasn't straight. But both teams are anxious to try things. It's a lovely game to watch. It is. It's just gone a little bit flat, as you said earlier on there, Nick, whether Ireland have kind of felt they've done enough and have established kind of the pattern that they want to establish, but they really need to start making an impression again, because slowly but surely Scotland will get back into this game. That's not a winning advantage yet by any stretch of the imagination. Cussiter feeds the scrum, which has remained strong. Patterson running quickly. Here's Danieli.
Away from the greens! Back!
As you say, bit by bit, second by second, Scotland will begin to fancy this a little more. Bullock really on the charge, almost up to the 22. It is very quiet in Dublin. White hammers away at O'Gara. And this is Ali Hogg, pulled off the bench yesterday, held up by Brian O'Driscoll. Tries to get the ball to ground. Cussiter, they're mining this blind side. Patterson. And Foley needed to be aware. Cussiter to Webster. And they still haven't forgotten his tap dance on Brian O'Driscoll, have they? And the ball will belong to Scotland. Now again, problems again for Scotland in terms of continuity. Webster just cutting back inside but running into one of his own men.
Please wait there, Greens.
Well, actually, it's like it's going to be a Scottish scrum. Managed to retain possession on that occasion, so that gives them a good attacking option from here. They're spoiled by Ireland.
Get away, Green! Get away, Green!
Still Scotland possession. Bullock picks up and drives on. They'll be very, very eager to get something from this passage of possession. Parks half slips, feeds Henderson, and then Phillip comes in. Good understanding between those two today. Cussiter again. This is White. 10 metres short. Cussiter to Douglas. Goodness me, he's that close to the line. Irish defence being tested here. The drive's on. Cussiter, Webster coming in. Came in at pace, but the defence was alert. Now then, what can they do? Patterson jinks one way, and well, he runs down a Dublin dead end. Still, though, it's Scottish possession. Parks back to Webster. Look at the defence, though. He was facing 4 green shirts. Let's try and get some pace on the recycling if they can. Daniele back to Patterson. They're not getting within 5 metres of the try line at the moment. Parks spins away. Scotland have the advantage. They want the try. They've got the try. And they deserve it. And Ali Hogg comes up with the ball. And Lansdowne Road, bar the voices that have made the trip across the Irish Sea, is very, very quiet, and Scotland are playing their rugby of the championship.
Yes, that's the best passage of play that they've probably put together all championship. The work, the continuity was there this time. Just sucking this Irish defence up to that. It had been good Irish defence, very well organised, but just broke them down with it. Just a war of attrition there on that Irish defence. It's time after time, man after man being challenged, just tying in those defenders. But at the end, it was a fairly simple dive over for Alistair Hogg. No more than they deserve, though, and Ireland really just need to get back into this.
Patterson to square things up, and it's all square. The team who were 20-1 on are being held in Dublin by Scotland, who were given no hope. It's 16-all, and the reason is Ali Hogg's first international try.
Now this is the breakdown again. It's taken on by Scott Murray, and Hogg can see the gap there. It's not really covered particularly well by Simon Eastby. You need to be a little bit tighter to that scrum, or to that ruck, I should say. That's the take on by Murray. Eastby just needs to be a little bit tighter to that. He couldn't defend that.
Scotland have gathered in the restart, and who would have thought this? Cleared away by Dan Parks.
Well, the difficulty really for Ireland is that they've been playing in fits and starts. They've created 2 wonderful tries, but throughout that period, Scotland have still been very, very competitive. They've just taken their foot off the pedal a little bit and let Scotland come back into this game. 16-all. Next score is going to be very, very important.
Ireland have made a change in that lineup, by the way. Donnacha O'Callaghan is on, and Malcolm O'Kelly is being stitched up. Now then, Darcy and co, and that man O'Callaghan just need to step it up a little bit. They've lost the urgency. The nerves are there. And at the moment, Scotland are suggesting they could be capable of one of the most unlikely results of the championship. But Ireland had the penalty, and as a result of some descent in the Scottish ranks, it's pulled forward a further 10 metres. Now this is interesting, Philip. If you were skipper, would you go for the 3 points or opt for the line-out?
I'd go for the line-out from here, Nick, to be honest. This is Scotland just turned over the ball, but illegally. Now, I don't know that that's illegal. The player's on his feet, although hands in the ruck. If that ball's on the floor, can't be picking it up in the ruck. I'd be going for the line, because I think psychologically Ireland need to cruise ahead, not only on the points board, but they need to establish that psychological advantage over Scotland, and I don't think that a 3-point penalty is going to do that. They really need to breach the line.
The Taoiseach, Bertie Ahern. Just a little prayer, maybe. Key line out. Taken in by the monster giant, Donnacha O'Callaghan, and behind him, the whole of Ireland will surge towards Scotland's try line. Foley runs into Douglas. Callaghan really is putting himself around, isn't he? He's a busy bee.
Scrum.
And it'll be an Irish scrum.
Yes, on at least 2 occasions there, Donegal O'Callaghan taking it on and is maybe a little bit over-eager in his eagerness just to make those hard yards, just lost a little bit of control, and what started out as a maul went to a ruck fairly quickly, with leaving them with no option but to pick and go. But they'll fancy their chances again. This is where Ireland have looked at their most dangerous. All the forwards committed to the scrum, plenty of space out wide. Look how wide you can. Gervin Dempsey is very, very wide on this left wing with Jordan Murphy outside him. Shane Horgan again off his wing, just shaping up pretty much the way they did for Jordan Murphy's try. Whether we're going to see a repeat of that again or not.
Well, that's Scott Murray, who has a problem with his right hand by the looks of things, or is it his left hand? It's a hand problem, and that's the reason for the delay. Well, the Triple Crown might be a mythical thing. It might be a piece of silverware that only really exists in the trophy cabinets of the mind. But talk this week here has centred on little else. And the more they talk, the more likely that nerves are likely to jangle. And I think that's what Ireland are suffering at the moment. They've got the free kick taken on by Foley. Drives for the line for all he's worth. The packer behind him. He's held up though. It's magnificent Scottish defence. There's the ball. It ought to come back on the green side. O'Callaghan, as ever, is there. Now Stringer to O'Connell. Look at that defence though. Wallace rolls off the tackle. Still going. Wallace! Try for Wallace! And Ireland can breathe again.
Well, they can breathe again for a little while, and we kind of said it earlier on. This is the talent of David Wallace. Whatever about the threat out wide, David Wallace is a consistent threat, tight in, taking those balls flat. He'll always break that first tackle for you. Always got the pace to get past that first defender, and the strength just to ride the tackle. He must have ridden at least 2 tackles there. It wasn't particularly pretty, but this time Ireland managed to maintain possession, and he had a lot of work to do. He just rotated his way out of that tackle, spun away, and had the strength. Couldn't be dragged back by those 3 Scottish defenders, and maybe a little against the run of play, Ireland find themselves back in the lead again.
2 points aren't a certainty. O'Gara has not been kicking well, but that was much, much better. Roars of relief around Lansdowne Road. It's 23-16.
Yeah, this is it. From here, you wouldn't bet on David Wallace getting over from here, would you? That wasn't a very good first up tackle, and it wasn't a very good second by Grimes, and there's no way Cussiter's going to stop him from there.
All the frustration of being left out of the World Cup squad coming to the fore there. He scored a try against the Scots, which we all thought would have booked his seat on the trip to Australia back in the autumn. He didn't go, and this is what it means to him now.
Hands up!
How important will that Wallace try be when we look at the bottom of the ledger? Webster does well to keep the ball in play.
Come away, Blues!
No reason to suggest that Scotland will fold though. Well taken by O'Driscoll on the Irish 10-metre. Stringer searching for any room there might be, but Parks was well positioned to plug the gaps. And this is his opposite number, O'Gara. And there was some intent from that Chris Patterson clearance. You can see that Malcolm O'Kelly is back on. We're hearing down from the touchline that Simon Taylor's injury is of the serious variety, and that must put a question mark over his participation in the tour down under this summer.
You just sense that Ireland relied a little bit too much throughout this game on creating those 3 tries, and they've really not bettered the Scottish forward pack yet. They've really not established any real dominance bar being ahead on the scoreboard, and that's a bit of a worry. They really need to start to be able to push away, because Scotland are very competitive.
Wallace rescues the ball at the tail of the line-out.
Hands up, Green!
Well, Scotland have burgled it back. Parks inside to Henderson over the 10-metre line. Cussiter. And we have Petrie outside. And was knocked back by a green wave. Still though, the ball is in Scottish hands. Cussiter to Parks. They've been using Bullock on that crash ball a lot. He's a handful. And this is Jason White, the man who plays for Sale. One of those players Matt Williams is keen to get back playing his rugby in Scotland. Another Anglo-Scot, Daniele, the Bathman, up to the 22. Custer was looking down the blind side. There was no one there, so he had to come back on the big wide open. Phillip. Henderson. Well, he was looking, I think, initially for Bullock, and was pleased to see Petrie there to prevent the ball going into touch. Bullock, and pass perhaps from a hooker you'd expect, but it still works out for Scotland, and they've got the advantage. They will have a penalty. If nothing comes of this, they might have a try. Daniele, oh, big tackle from O'Driscoll. And Stuart Grimes was bearing down on the try line, and they will have possession from the scrum, but Brian O'Driscoll really put himself about there.
Well, he's been putting himself about all afternoon. That was a big, that was important that hit was made. Didn't give Stuart Grimes any time at all, knocked him back, stopped him in his tracks, but Scotland's really starting to fight back here and really in danger of closing that gap and getting parity on the scoreboard again, and really not able to pull clear at all. They really have turned up with, probably as we said earlier on, the best performance of the championship so far.
Could you tell me that again, please? Number 9.
The smiles just a little thinner than they were at kickoff.
Number 9.
Now then, pop quiz, who's that?
Go on, tell us then.
Larry Mullen, U2 drummer.
Yeah, a little bit of hesitation there.
Got all the albums. By the way, if you were wondering where Mary McAleese, the president, is, there were no presentations today. She's actually on tour in Argentina, not a rugby tour, you understand, a political tour. I wonder if she's found a bar. Scotland on the attack. Henderson, held up by Horgan. And they've made changes, Scotland. Mike Blair is on at scrum half, and this is another of those changes. Nathan Hines. Fresh legs, fresh minds. Parks to Phillip. Back to Hogg. He's already scored one try. They are 2 metres short, Scotland. This is Park. Douglas. That was loose. It's anyone's ball. It might fall for Patterson against O'Driscoll. But these are very, very nervy Irish moments.
Well, it has to be said, and it's not through any fault of Ireland. Scotland are just playing some of the best rugby they've played. The continuity is there. Their rucking is good. They're really taking on this Irish set of forwards, and territorially they've got it right as well. Parks just keep getting them deep into Irish territory, and from there on they're able to put the pressure.
Done well, Chris Cussiter. He can look back on his first Six Nations season with some satisfaction. Matt Williams talking about the patience that they will have to show. And I think for the first time today we've begun to see the potential perhaps that some of these younger Scottish players will have, and they've made lots and lots of changes. The old guard have all gone post-World Cup, and it will take time, but today has been much, much better, and you still don't know if the Triple Crown will be residing in a Dublin bar this evening.
Keep the binding up, please. Crouch and hold.
Scotland would care not to be carrying the wooden spoon home with them. The penalty is against Gavin Kerr for popping out of the scrum.
Well, if they're not that wooden spoon, they're just going to stop mistakes like that, because they've been doing so well when they've been in Irish territory, but just giving up a cheap 30 or 40 yards to Ronan O'Gara is not what they need to do, and the line out as well. And he gets the absolute maximum of that kick, which brings Ireland into the Scottish 22.
20 minutes to go in the final match of the Six Nations this season for these two. And which way is it going to go? It's been a magnificent contest.
Substitution, number 1 Green.
And they're forcing themselves to sing. I'm not sure they really want to. They were too nervous for that. And they're making the change in the front row. And the old warhorse, the 33-year-old Reggie Corrigan, has done his work. They've thrown on the young buck, Marcus Horan, over his back injury. And another warhorse, Malcolm O'Kelly, secures the ball from the lineouts. A try separates the two teams at the moment. We're into the final quarter. Darcy seemed to drop the ball but then regathered it and drove forward. Darcy. Horgan screaming for the ball on this near right-hand side. Ireland have to retrieve it first. And the ball is out.
Well, the referee reckoned the ball was out, but I don't think the Irish players would agree with that if we get a chance to see that again.
The ball must be out. Scrum, green.
This is the break from Gordon Darcy. He did well to hang on to the ball initially and then broke the tackle of Daniele and just kept going.
And that has been another of the Achilles heels of Scotland's performance in the Championship this season. They really need to be putting those first-time tackles in.
O'Driscoll back to Dempsey.
Release!
5 metres short. Will one more try be enough? Stringer goes for the gap and scores! The unlikeliest of try scorers, Peter Stringer. Just his 3rd in the green of his country, and none more important. It may come stamped with the words Triple Crown.
No, that was a rare break for Peter Stringer, but that was an opportunity that even he couldn't pass up. I guess the difference there between these two sides is just a couple of phases, and that's all it takes for Ireland to break down the Scottish defence, whereas Scotland were really made to work an awful lot harder by Ireland. They'll consider that a soft try, and yet again, it's really the first up tackles. Bull Hayes does very, very well, just getting those hard yards, gets Scotland on the back foot, but Peter Stringer really should have been put to ground there. Henderson just a little bit stretched, and Scott Murray was disappointed that he didn't just meet him halfway and stop and gave him those vital 2 yards.
And his schoolmate, when they were 8 years old at Presentation College in Cork, adds the 2 points. O'Gara with the conversion. And all of a sudden, life for Ireland and for Peter Stringer in particular is looking a little sweeter.
And that try will mean an awful lot to Peter Stringer. He is a diminutive yet highly talented individual, but if anything, probably should be making more of the opportunities as a scrum half, should be on the score sheet a little bit more, and no, he's there.
Not gone!
And we are well into the final quarter.
As we said, in Ireland, anytime they've got down into the Scottish half, they generally come away with points. I'm not sure what the territorial stats would look like, but I sense that Scotland has shaded, certainly in the second half.
Blair to Parks, to Henderson. Nice loop from Parks. He's got Webster outside. They've got long memories in these parts. Just switching on, he clammed all over Brian O'Driscoll in the first half. Driven forward by Douglas, and that's the Irish 22. Patterson.
Hands up! Ball's out!
There's Parks again. Webster. This is Bullock. Parks. Murray was offering himself. He went beyond him to fill it. Now they've got the men over if they can use them. Daniele. Well, he didn't see Hogg. There was half an inch there. Blair, Parks again. And they're running down blind alleys. And it's been snaffled back, and Simon Easterby, who is the snaffler in chief, wins it back for Ireland Foley quickly to Jordan Murphy. And the ball went forward.
Yes, maybe just a little bit too cheeky for Anthony Foley there. Ronan O'Gara saw it was on, didn't really want to take the expected option of just kicking for touch. But yes, great opportunity. Yeah, this is the opportunity. Jordan Murphy just don't overrun it slightly. But again, Scotland maybe just not showing that confidence on the ball. Daniele had a wonderful opportunity. If he'd just run a little bit harder, more aggressively on the board, you sense he would have stretched that Irish defence, but he almost accepted that he was going to be tackled.
Scotland are making a substitution. That is the familiar face of Brendan Laney. He's come on for Andrew Henderson. Laney, the Kiwi, the 30-year-old, winning his 20th cap, and Henderson can retire to the sidelines. And here is Laney. Patterson, he's got Webster outside. Opts to go back inside with Phillip. Not the cleverest of kicks.
Well, there's very little on there for Tom Phillip, but that clearly wasn't the option. Ball in hand, maybe just sets up some second phase, but he's just given the ball back to Jordan Murphy, who's been fielding the ball very well on the day. He's been fairly busy with the ball in the air.
Okay, let's go.
Some familiar faces in the press box, working for Radio 5 today. Andy Irvine in the middle, Scottish hero, alongside Hugo McNeill on the left. A Triple Crown winner in 1985, along with the ugly bearded bloke sitting next to me.
Who's that then?
Scotland are still giving it a hammer though, aren't they?
Well, they are, and I think Matt Williams will take a lot of encouragement out of this, although they've turned that ball over again. This time it's through Shane Byrne.
Stringer to Darcy. Oh, it needed to be quickly away from Wallace, and he did his best, but Hogg was up too quickly. And we are well into the final quarter. O'Driscoll fires away. Will Webster stop it? Does well. Kicks it back to Patterson, who from the sanctuary of his own 22 manages to clear to touch and just seems to have pulled a muscle slightly as well in the process. One more game to go, of course, in the Six Nations, as we watch Webster go back. Didn't really want to put his hands on the ball. Did the next best thing.
Yeah, you wonder which code we were watching there for a minute, wouldn't you? Nice bit of footwork, but it gives Ireland the line out, that's just on the halfway line.
Line out on the halfway. Byrne finds O'Kelly, and this is O'Gara, finds O'Driscoll as well, over halfway. There's always so much intent when the Irish backs get the ball, but on that occasion they were profligate, and Scotland can come away, but only for a few seconds. The penalty though goes to the Scots, Ireland hanging on to possession.
And the trend continues. Still, Ireland have not got the better, not really established any real dominance over this Scottish side. They're ahead on the scoreboard, as I said before, but largely they're just taking the chances that are presented. And this is the penalty. Jordan Murphy just going to ground. He's got isolated there and he's holding on. Tom Phillip does very well.
22 down the middle,
that penalty, which gives Scotland a good attacking lineup just inside the Irish 22.
I think Matt Williams knows if Scotland are going to put a dent into the profits of Dublin's publicans tonight, they're going to have to score a try pretty shortly.
In the 15.
Bearing down on the final 10 minutes, and that tells its own story, doesn't it?
Yes, the possession's been very much in Scotland's favour, and again, it's just been through Ireland's ability to get those points when they've got down there that they're ahead on the scoreboard.
Next time the steadies come off, we've got to get it out.
Muscular, patient approach from Scotland that's kept them in this game, but they're hanging on now. Can they get the try that would bring them back into it once more? Patterson thrust to the floor by Wallace. Blair had Hogg inside, goes himself. Parks was amongst the first in support. The There's some fury, I think, from
guy not releasing?
Laney, because he's not entirely sure that Scotland could have got the ball, but
you were on the deck.
the penalty has gone against Parks, and that's the reason why.
No, that was Brian O'Driscoll again, almost like an open side flanger, but it's just one of the signs, I guess, of how the modern game of rugby has changed. Everybody's expected to do that. It's kind of taken as a given, and that man there is certainly setting the standard. He must have secured about at least 3 turnovers for Ireland today.
10 minutes to go here in Dublin. One more game to come on the BBC in the Six Nations this season. At 10-8, France against England in Paris, in between Casualty and the National Lottery. Put the beers in. Well taken in by Foley, and he was being pulled down in the process. And I'm thinking,
he was in the air.
over the next 10 minutes, what might be going through the minds of some of these Irish players, and should it come to pass, a triple crown would mean as much to the likes of Anthony Foley as anyone. He's been such a servant for this Irish team. Let's not write the glory headlines too early, though, because Scotland have not given up this match just yet.
No, they haven't, but you just sense that Ireland are going to need to. They're going to want to do something from this line out. Again, it's a great attacking position for them.
Gap, please.
Anytime they've been down in Scottish territory pretty well in the second half, they've come away with something.
6 man, 2, 4, 6, 7. Go back then.
There goes long. Taken in by O'Connell. The ball was loose, though. It was not forward
by Green. Scrum, blue ball.
Let's go, Brucey, let's go, Brucey.
for Ireland to go on their summer trip to South Africa as the Triple Crown holders.
Engage. I'll come around.
Worth remembering that Ireland won the championship as well in 1985, as well as the Triple Crown. It would have been a Grand Slam.
22-metre line.
Philip Matthews won't thank me for mentioning this. It would have been a Grand Slam, but for a 15-all draw with the French here, that close to a Grand Slam. But it's been all that time since the Triple Crown was repeated in Dublin. And Laney, a little untidily and not particularly elegantly, clears the touch, and I think he's suggesting that somebody else should have taken that job on.
Well, he's normally very comfortable in that role, Brendan Laney. Anything more comfortable is ball to boot than ball in hand sometimes, but can't really complain there. But it gives Ireland this line of just on the Scottish 10-metre line. As we just wait for that injury.
Number 2, Scotland. Number 2, Scotland replacement,
Scotland are making a substitution as well. Robbie Russell, the Saracens hooker, is on, and Gordon Bullock's done. And here are the 2 second-half tries, Philip.
Yeah, well, again, you wouldn't have. There's no way that David Wallace really should have been able to climb his way out of those tackles. I mean, he is a very dynamic, strong player. And again, Ireland not being forced to work too hard for this try either. It was a fairly simple 1 or 2 phases, and Stringer spotted the gap. What was important was that John Hayes had got the Scottish defence on the back foot, and Peter Springer was open to the opportunity and took it with both hands.
It's Robbie Russell, who has come on his 23rd cap, 4 years after his debut here against Ireland in the Six Nations.
What's happening, Tony?
And well, I'm afraid Scotland have suffered another injury. Bruce Douglas, the borderer, has gone, and well, it means not for the first time in this championship that the prop who thought his work was done, he was just heading for the lagers, is suddenly back on, and Alan Jacobson has got just an extra couple of minutes to do as Paul O'Connell drives forward for Ireland. 7.5 minutes away from the Triple Crown. Here's the man who set them along the way. Darcy takes the tourist route to Jordan Murphy, back inside to Darcy, and Darcy, Ireland's man of the championship, scores the Triple Crown winning try.
Well, again, Ireland managed to create that open field situation, and they really are finding a Scottish defence that are just not able to cope with it. This time Gordon Darcy just ran his way round the defenders. So Yeah, they're really from that ruck. Ball's just switched back inside. Now, he really shouldn't be able to get that far. Ran his way around the defence, was back on Jordan Murphy's shoulder. And once Ireland had got past that Scottish first line of defence, there really was no stopping that. Yet again, well, they come away, Nick, don't they? Anytime they've got down here, anytime they've moved that ball wide, they've been able to score points. Really are looking so dangerous, so much time on the ball. The support play off the ball as well has been tremendous. Now really Darcy should have been put down clearly there. Gavin Kerr steps back off him a little bit, maybe a bit of obstruction by Paul O'Connell. But again the ball is put into space. It just stays on his shoulder waiting for that return pass.
It's 37-16. It's all over. And it took them 60 minutes to subdue this Scottish team. It's been a much, much better performance from Scotland. But at the end of the piece, they have not been able to deny Ireland their triple crown. And I tell you, somebody who will be an interested observer here, I'll come to that in a moment, as Scotland continue to bring the ball away. They will continue to plug. Here's Cussiter back inside to Phillip. Parks, Laney, and this is the man who's come back off the bench. Jacobson, Patterson, continuing to search for the angles, looking for the gap that just might bring them another try. But they've been so much more competitive, Scotland, than many people had feared. Here's O'Kelly over the 10-metre line, up to halfway. Stringer, O'Driscoll, back to Darcy. Well, it's been a dream championship for Gordon Darcy. He appeared to be out in the wilderness when he was left out of that World Cup party. It's a penalty for the Irish. Darcy with those two tries, and somebody who will have bittersweet thoughts from this match is Matt Williams, because it was about 18 months ago when Matt Williams sat Gordon Darcy down in his role as the Leinster coach and said, listen Gordon, if you fancy a role as a professional rugby player, you've got to get your life sorted out. He was turning up late for training sessions, wasn't really in the groove as a professional player. Darcy took those words on board, and today he scored the two tries that have sunk Matt Williams' Scotland and won Ireland their first triple crown since 1985. Scotland are making another change. Derek Lee's coming on.
Six-man blue, okay? Six-man.
And Simon Danieli comes off. I'm afraid, though, it will be the wooden spoon for Scotland. Line out was not what Ireland wanted. Petrie to Laney. Play from Phillip. And here's Webster, who will not be having many beers bought for him on O'Connell Street tonight. Here's Patterson. Still giving it a blast, Scotland. Hines to Laney.
Hands up! Say it, say it.
3 minutes to go.
Hands up, blue!
Stringer still going, one of the try scorers. They've got 5 already. Half a dozen would be neat. Two very, very tired teams down there, though. Stringer to O'Gara, to the skipper O'Driscoll.
Look back, play
Kelly
on.
has to sweep up.
Stay in your feet, red forms.
It's a penalty against the Irish. Too many players diving in off their feet.
Yeah, it's all getting a little bit scrappy now as the game starts to lose its shape and its pattern. And there's the RBS Six Nations man of the match. Gordon Darcy has been outstanding today. His running in open play has been virtually unstoppable. Remind you of a young Brian O'Driscoll. It's a close call because I think Brian O'Driscoll's been outstanding today as well. His tackling, his turnovers that he's won, his commitment, he's really led this Irish team from the front. But what about that find of the season? What a precocious talent in Gordon Darcy. And really now, I guess he's been the final link that has really made this Irish backline probably one of the most effective backlines in Europe at the moment, and playing with such confidence.
I need them again, please, the numbers.
Possibly the world. There aren't many teams with tools as sharp as Darcy and O'Driscoll in the box.
Well, to think that Dennis Hickey is probably sitting somewhere in the stand watching this.
Now Ireland are making 5 substitutions. We've only got 2 minutes left until the referee blows his whistle, so I won't detain you with all their names. But O'Sullivan, the coach, making sure that everyone who's worked so hard as a squad this season has their moment of glory as well. And the ovation, the standing ovation, is for the man of the match, Gordon Darcy.
As he just leaves the field and has been hugged by just about everybody else on the touchline. That's a very pleased young man.
Back foot!
Ireland winning possession at the line-out.
Hands up! Stay back! Stay back!
One of the replacements, Costello. 33-year-old Dubliner Costello. Another one of those troopers who's done the rounds for a decade. But Scotland have the penalty.
Blue on his feet.
The interesting thing as well, Philip, is that so many of these players, perhaps not Costello, so many of them though will be around for the World Cup in 2007. They are building for the future as well as building for the present day, Eddie O'Sullivan and his troops.
Well, that's right. I mean, we've talked an awful lot about this young Irish backline, but a pretty young, very effective set of forwards in there as well. The likes of Paul O'Connell, David Wallace still got a few years left in him. Keith Gleeson out of the shade, but still got years on his side. So all augurs well for the next one.
There's a poor line out from Russell. The jumpers weren't in position, and Costello again, for the second time in 30 seconds, clears Irish lines. David Humphreys can't find O'Driscoll. Humphreys and Maggs, by the way, winning their 63rd caps today to pull alongside the great Willie John McBride. And I wonder what old Willie John is thinking, watching on as he will be. And we are into time added on. The next time the ball goes dead, there will be confirmation of Ireland's Triple Crown from the whistle of the Welshman, Nigel Williams. 19 years has come to an end. Eddie O'Sullivan's Ireland have the Triple Crown. Their 50th win against Scotland, and Brian O'Driscoll, the King of Ireland, leads them to a 7th Triple Crown. Philip Matthews.
Yeah, well, that's really what this Irish crowd wanted to see. I don't think they genuinely wanted to see Ireland cruise effortlessly past Scotland, because Scotland turned up today. They made Ireland work for them, but for just a few moments of individual brilliance, led by Brian O'Driscoll, who today was maybe the provider rather than the maker. Gordon Darcy, man of the match, but a real day for the conditions were tailor-made, I guess, for this young Irish backline, and they proved their mettle today. I think they came of age today.
And who would have thought this as well at the start of the season, having gone out so ignominiously at the World Cup. They just let themselves down so badly against the French in that quarter-final in Melbourne. They were knocked over by the French in Paris a couple of months later, but they've come back so well, and they have the Triple Crown. And we can go down to the touchline. Sonia with the man of the moment.
Well, Gordon Darcy, I think you're going to remember the day you scored your first tries for Ireland, aren't you? You've become a Triple Crown winner.
Yeah, it's a day we've been waiting for 6 years, in my case, and some lads 10, 12 years for this moment. Yeah, we knew that was coming. Every step of the way, we knew they were going to fight. Geez, they gave it. They put it up to us. What a team! What a game they played.
I get the impression Lansdowne Road is about to go absolutely nuts. Can you put into words how much it does mean to this team?
I don't think just Lansdowne's going to go nuts. The whole city's going to go nuts. It's such an honour for the whole country, Dublin, especially for the players, to be able to represent our country and win the Triple Crown.
Well done. It's been 19 years in coming. You're the RBS man of the match. Many congratulations. I think that's going to go well tonight.
Certainly will. Thanks very much.
Well, what a player, and what an occasion for Irish rugby. Long old time, 19 years. And well done, Keithwood, by proxy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We can say in the reflected glow, and it's brilliant. The team deserves it. The management deserve it. They've put an awful lot of hard work in, and you don't ever deserve it until you actually have it in your hands. So it's fantastic.
Well, Brian O'Driscoll leading his team, not sort of in a stroll of honour more than a running lap of honour. And before this Six Nations began, a lot of people, there's Eddie O'Sullivan, who actually watched that Triple Crown match on the telly 19 years ago, and here he is, the man who's masterminded it today. At the start of the season, a lot of people were saying, post-World Cup, that the Ireland team perhaps was going to hit a dip. But in fact, they've almost risen stronger now, haven't they?
Well, I think maybe some of the problems in the World Cup, some of the areas where we let ourselves down, they've been sorted out. I mean, there's an awful lot of really, really good work being put in. There's a really good young. It's a young team with a serious coach who's very, very dedicated, very, very thorough, and it's a winning formula.
Great pictures there of Brian O'Driscoll and Eddie O'Sullivan that I'm sure we'll see on papers tomorrow. Well, certainly in Ireland they will. I suspect the papers in England may have other things, other fish to fry, of which more in a moment or so. Andy, what consolation can you take from that for Scotland? Because just for a while you thought maybe.
Yeah, I think it was Scotland's best performance in the Championship. I think they had so many phases. They looked dangerous for the first time in the Championship, to be perfectly honest. And but the problem is, they had so many phases in Ireland's 22, but they didn't convert that into tries. Good teams do that. Ireland got into Scotland's 22 maybe 3 times in the second half and scored 2 tries. That's the difference.
Well, no substitute for pace. We say that all the time, don't we? But also, Ireland managed to make incisions into the Scottish defence with much more regularity, didn't they? I mean, Keith was saying there that Scotland had many, many phases of play and actually didn't penetrate the defence, but Ireland always had players with a cutting edge.
Well, it looked like the threat was always there. Like, looking down on the field, a scrum 10 yards out, and you say, Ireland could score from here. That's what it looked like all the time. Whereas it didn't look like that for Scotland, even though they did manage to get a couple of tries.
Great scenes, these. I'm sure that in the Scotland dressing room it's time for reflection and to say, well, build and let's go on. But for the moment, for Irish rugby, which is, very, very small playing population here, but the sport is very, very much on the up, isn't it?
Totally. The European Cup has been of great value, and I think the last 3 or 4 years have seen the national team fully taken on, and this can only make it better.
Well, Ireland played good rugby to watch, don't they? Some great tries during the course of today's match, and what it means with just one game to go in the RBS Six Nations Championship is Ireland, played 5-1-4, but they ain't going to be champions. That's going to be decided when France play England at Stade de France tonight. We're on air at 10 to 8 on BBC One. The game kicks off at 8 o'clock, so it's going to be a very, very quiet night here in Dublin. And actually, what an evening. Sit and watch the telly for an hour, celebrating an Irish Triple Crown in Dublin. So, 2 impartial observers here, so what's going to happen tonight?
I just think France have got a bit too much. I think this is their big game. They want to get the monkey off the back from Sydney when they lost in the semi-final. I think they've just been purring along in the Six Nations so far, just doing enough in each game to win it. And I expect them to put on a show tonight.
England?
I think England have played badly in the tournament, and if they get it right, they could win the game. And it actually depends on which France turns up. France have played in second gear for the whole tournament. It's been good enough to win the 4 matches to date.
And the key area tonight?
Line out. Again, as it so often is the case. If England are put under an awful lot of pressure there, France get the confidence, could do the damage.
OK, we must stop it there, except to say that Ollie Barkley, what a big night for him as well against Serge Betts, and that really will be one of the head-to-heads that determines maybe the outcome of this year's Six Nations Championship, and also maybe denies France a Grand Slam. So Ireland have won the Triple Crown here in Lansdowne Road, but Saturday Night Fever, rugby style, is just 2 hours away.
flying.